Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in an auditorium full of people who would soon become some of your closest friends. The person on stage, wearing a carrot shirt, has asked everyone to stand and repeat after him. In just a few seconds, you, along with literally everyone else in the audience, are shuffling your feet, clapping, and repeating the names of the parts of a plant. You can open your eyes now. Many of you might remember this moment from our first week together at FoodCorps National Orientation. It still seems ridiculous, but this was one of the first moments when I knew I was in the right place. It turns out that the plant part dance, as I refer to it, is an incredible teaching tool. My first graders know it by heart, and even the students who like to wander during Zoom calls find their way back to the camera whenever we review it together. When looking for a way to tell my food chat, it struck me that my FoodCorps story relates perfectly to the 6 parts of a plant: root, stem, leaves, flower, fruit, and seeds. I'll share my story from the ground up. Roots. My first few months of FoodCorps were about grounding myself in my community, getting my hands dirty in the garden, and building relationships with students and staff and fellow service members. I dove into teaching and struggled to find my teaching style and to remember all the names of the plants in the garden, not to mention all 700 of my students. I realized that it takes time to build that trust and figure out where I fit in, but I also realized how beneficial it was to embrace the uncomfortable and learn from it. STEM. Once I rooted myself in my school communities, my relationships started to sprout. My state cohort, supervisor, school staff, and Springfield team soon became the people I could lean on for support, especially when things got hard. My relationships with students also deepened. At lunchtime, the simple question, "What are you eating today?" often turned into a story about the cake they made for their sister's birthday or a conversation about where those blueberries actually come from. Of course, students also taught me the latest TikTok dances and gushed about their pets. Those small moments of connection outside of lessons, where I didn't feel the pressure of managing a class or watching the clock, were where I caught a glimpse of who these students are and what they care about. I saw the value in these connections, especially once we had to rely on virtual meetings to make sure families had food and students had support. As one of my school secretaries said to me, we are all on the same team. Leaves. Rooting myself and building relationships gave way to learning. I learned about what worked and what didn't in class. I learned how to care for the tomatoes and the peach trees. I learned that I don't have all the answers and that that's okay. I learned about what I could do to dismantle white supremacy, starting with my lessons, and that I still have a lot of work to do. I remember one special moment when a student and her mom joined me in the garden, and as we walked around, I shared a little bit about each plant. When I realized that she was translating for her mom, we exchanged names of plants in both English and Spanish, learning from each other. That day, I witnessed the power of the garden as a way to communicate through multiple languages and generations. Just as leaves soak up the sunlight, I have soaked up so much from my students, as well as the other service members across the country. Flower. A second year offered me the chance to bloom and build on what I already knew, even though the pandemic had changed everything. As I reflected, I realized that I had gained so many skills that I never expected to, such as video production and mindfulness techniques. Schools were closed, but I connected with service members all over the country. We made lemonade out of lemons and continue to do that each and every day. Fruits. I remember sitting on the floor of the classroom, crisscross applesauce and sandwiched between 2 second graders. We were playing pretend. One by one, kids added their neon pink paper carrot or some other brightly colored vegetable to our paper soup pot and gave it a big stir with the wooden spoon. As they stirred, each student shared something positive that they contributed to the class. Even if they were shy to share, I could tell from the glimmers in their eyes that every student felt special that day. Whether making pretend food or real food together, I have seen students make connections to food, to family, to their school community, and to the earth. I think about the Zulu concept of Ubuntu every day. I am because you are. I am because they are. Seeds. I have seen powerful changes throughout my time as a service member, both in myself and in my communities. Whether students are trying new foods or honoring their grandmother who cooks for them, I am proud of them each and every day, and I am so grateful to them for opening their hearts. It is through the power of connection, no matter how small those connections seem, that we will continue to grow, learn, and change as a society. Sometimes all it takes is a seed.